All right, guys, so this is it, Beowulf's last battle. The italics here are very, very important. So you have to make sure that you read those because what happens here is it tells us after defeating Grendel's mother and Grendel, Beowulf leaves Denmark and he leaves Hrothgar's people in Harrod Hall and he gets on his boat and goes back home to Sweden. Once he's back home in Sweden, they make him king of the Geats and he is king for 50 years. So now the whole story fast forwards 50 years later. And we talked in class and decided Beowulf was probably like 25 when he was fighting Grendel and Grendel's mother. So now Beowulf is 75 years old. And a dragon is threatening his people. And so he has said that he is going to go fight that dragon, even though he's the king and a very old man. So, of course, he has to utter a final boast, a little bit of foreshadowing there, his final boast. And he points out that this is different than with Grendel. He says, if I could fight him without any weapons like I fought Grendel, then I would. But he says, this is a fire-breathing dragon, so I feel no shame to bring a sword and shield against this monster. Beowulf has grown up and matured some. He's a little humbler. He realizes that he's old and that he needs help. But he won't let his men help. He sends his men up to wait for him at the top of a nearby hill and says, wait there while I go fight the dragons, because no man but me could do this. Not an incredibly good leader. And then it goes into the battle with the dragon. He has on his chainmail and he has gone down in there to face this dragon. And it talks about the dragon's hot breath and the smoke that is blocking the passage and whirling throughout this tower. And then Beowulf gets angry and roars out a loud battle cry so that the dragon hears him and comes out to face him. As soon as they start fighting, Beowulf swings his shield into place and it works for a little while, but very soon both of Beowulf's weapons fail him. His shield begins to melt, and then his ancient blade breaks. It does say he drew blood, but both of his weapons fail him, and now suddenly he feels deserted by his weapons and even deserted by fate. Where's that quote? I guess it's a little farther. He feels like fate has abandoned him for the first time in his life. It's quoted in one of your questions. But still, even though they see their great king fallen, it says a king before, but now a beaten warrior. The men see that Beowulf is falling, dying, losing, and they run away. All of the men run for their lives and head to the hills, except for one man named Wiglaf. Wiglaf, his one loyal soldier. Now, like an epic poem tends to do, it goes into this long description of Wexton, who is Wiglaf's father, and the story about Wexton and Wexton's armor. I mentioned in class when we met Hrunting, Beowulf's weapon, that swords in epics often get their life story told, just like the hero gets his life story told. So all this part here circled in green is actually the life story of Wiglaf's weapon, if that was confusing for you. But it is a triumphant weapon of a warrior. Wiglaf utters a speech to his comrades before running off to join Beowulf, and he says, we promised Beowulf that we would fight for him. We sat in the mead hall and boasted that we would be brave and do this. But now when he needs you, you're going to run away. And he berates them and says, how dare we carry our shields home while we watch Beowulf fall? He's our king. He needs us now. And so then he runs into the battle. And this textbook, just like every textbook I've taught from, makes this just an italicized story. It just says Wiglaf and Beowulf kill the dragon. It skips the most climactic part. This would be the scene in the movie where the music would swell up and this epic battle would go on. But the text just gives us Wiglaf and Beowulf kill the dragon. And here we see them lying on the ground. So unfortunately, we don't get the epic battle that ensues there. But now both of them are wounded. I will tell you, Beowulf stabs the dragon with his dagger, like cuts him nearly in half. The dragon bites Beowulf in the throat with his big dragon tooth, and it's got poison in it. So like there's poison coursing through Beowulf's veins. And now they are both lying and dying. So Beowulf sends Wiglaf into the dragon's tower to get the treasure. And it goes into great detail about the gold and the gems and the cups and bracelets and helmets and everything that Wiglaf finds. And Wiglaf fills his arms with treasure and goes running back to Beowulf as quickly as he can. This is actually a really good image of Beowulf here, laying bloody. He doesn't quite look 75, but he looks older anyway. And so he gives Wiglaf, once Wiglaf gets back with the treasure and shows Beowulf all the wonderful things, he gives Wiglaf his chain and of like around his neck, his chain of office. He gives him his helmet. He gives him his chainmail. He gives him all of this stuff. And he says, Wiglaf, lead my people. Help them. My time is gone. So in addition to giving him these jewels and this honor, he tells Wiglaf to be the king. He says, take over for me. And in the uncut version, there's more to this speech where he says, I don't have a son. If I had a son, I'd leave all this to him. But Wiglaf, you, my loyal follower, you will be the one to carry on my name and carry on my legacy. And then he says, and build a tower. He's thinking of fame, thinking of glory, thinking of legacy. Build me a tower so high that sailors can see it from the sea and they will come to see it. And then he dies, and Wiglaf fulfills his wishes. He builds a huge tower, tall and strong, and 12 Geat warriors ride around this tower on horseback, crying out the great deeds of Beowulf and how he will be remembered. Notice that they also leave the treasure in the tower, and they bury it down in the ground so that men can never see it again. And so part of the legacy of Beowulf's tower is that there are riches hidden inside of it. And that's a very Anglo-Saxon warrior kind of thing. But so that is the end of Beowulf. He will be remembered by the tower. And so now you need to make sure that you went in and discussed Beowulf's legacy and some possible themes that you saw going on in this story.